My mom took my cheating ex-girlfriend's side over mine, and I could never forgive her. Original post. I was raised by a single mom. My dad died 2 years after I was born. I focused on my career for the most part of my life, and my mom supported me doing that. But when I was 20, I met my ex-girlfriend and we got together. We were colleagues first, but she told me she'd work in a different sector soon. In her new workplace, she met a new guy who she fell in love with while being in a relationship with me. I only found out because she admitted to have screw with him to me after she went out for girls' night with her friends. I immediately broke up with her and threw her out. A few hours of me trying to process what happened, my mom called me and shouted at me that she hasn't raised me like this. I was confused and asked what she meant, and she said that my ex-girlfriend accused me of cheating on her and that she found proof of that on my phone. I couldn't believe what I just heard. I tried to talk to my mother, telling her that the exact opposite is true and that she has cheated on me, but she didn't believe me. Part of the reason is probably because she and my mom truly loved each other. I never had a problem with that. Till then, I liked how they got along with each other. My mother called me a liar and she said she'd disinherit me from her will, as she's not having a cheater as a son. She said she never wants to see me again. Then later, my grandparents called me to tell me how disappointed they are of me, and that I deserve every bad thing that is to come. You know what the worst thing was? I found out that my cheating ex-girlfriend continued to meet with my mom after everything she did. All of this was so painful for me. The only person that sided with me was my best friend, who was furious with her. I talked to him, and he hugged me, and I cried in his arms. I know many people would think that's unusual for two guys, but his support really helped me getting through this. 1 year later, when I already was over it, my doorbell rang, and when I opened, I saw my mom with teary eyes, and I began to feel how my emotions are coming up, and I slammed the door and started crying, asking her what the screw she wants here. She said she wanted to talk to me and that she was so sorry. After she begged for 15 minutes straight, I gave in and opened the door. She said my ex admitted that she cheated when she was drunk. She apologized profusely and said that she knows that she failed as a mother, not believing her own child. I told her that I accept her apology, but I don't want to see her now, and that I probably can never forgive her, even though she begged me to forgive her. Over the last few months, she started calling me daily just to hear my voice, as she said. She said she missed me, then apologized again and asked if I could just come over. Her voice always sounded kinda painful, and she always says how much she loves me and that even she can understand that I hate her. She cannot live with this thought on her head. I don't even hate her. I still love her. She is still my mom, but the trust is broken. I can never trust her again, because what if I got into a relationship again? Who says that she wouldn't just believe their word over mine again? I appreciate her efforts, but I just cannot forgive her or even see her now, and I hope she understands that I need time. Now for the top of comments before reading the update. Make her tell your grandparents the truth. The fact that she ruined your reputation in your family is disgusting. I know what having a mother like that is like, and believe me, no contact is better than the potential risk of stress and chaos that they can bring to your life again, and they always will. That's the first thing that I would ensure, and secondly, that she can't ever meet or ask about relationships, seeing as how she'd betray me, and thirdly, I'd tell her that I will reach out when I want to and to stop harassing. Just to piggyback on that, ask your mother to publicly apologize, put a Facebook post, and stand in the town square with a sandwich board. Then never talk to her again. I cannot imagine how incredibly awful this must have been for you. Your mother made this all about her, and not about you. She selfishly dumped you, and then selfishly calls you repeatedly because it's what she needs. There is nothing my daughter could do to make her turn my back on her. Now for the update. First update. Hi there. After reading too many comments yesterday, I decided to meet with my mom today to clarify everything. I texted her to come over, and she didn't hesitate. She literally appeared at my door within 15 minutes. Many of you pointed out good points I should ask her. Even though she called several times, we rarely really talked. So when she came over, I sat her down in the living room. There I asked about my grandparents, her will, and if she is still in contact with my ex. She explained that she had told my grandparents, and she expected them to call me, but it seems like they were too stubborn. She also said I'm in her will again. She then started talking shit about my ex. She said that when she found out, she punched her so hard that my ex lost a few teeth. I very much doubt the accuracy of this story detail, but I wanted to share it anyway, because for me, it was a funny thing to think about. She said she told her to screw off and threw her out of the house. She then again started apologizing profusely and telling me that she knows how hard she messed up and that I probably can never trust her, but she wants to do everything in her power to make this right. She explained that the man before my father had cheated on her, so infidelity was a sensitive topic for her. And then she said that she regrets not believing me or even remotely hearing my side of the story. I sat quiet while she explained all this. I then asked her how I know that I could trust her now. What would happen if I got into a similar situation, and if she would just throw me away again? She said I have her word, and I replied that her word is basically meaningless as I don't trust her in the first place. She didn't reply to that answer properly, and again, begged me to forgive. I told her that I cannot forgive her for now, and maybe I will never be able to forgive her. But I also see her efforts, and if she wants me in her life again, then she has to show me that I can count on her. She started tearing up. I could tell she tried to hold in her tears the entire time. But then she broke down crying, and with a whimpering voice, she asked if she at least could give me a hug. I accepted that, and she said she's gonna make this right no matter what it takes, and then she left. Now while I am kinda touched in how she shows how much she regrets doing what she did, I am really concerned about my own reaction. When she broke down, and I saw my own mother there on the floor crying, I didn't feel anything. I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, I wasn't happy, and I certainly didn't show any sort of empathy for her. I just couldn't. During the year of having no contact with her, I refused to go to therapy. Maybe it's not too late to do that now. In the end, I want to thank all of you for your nice comments and support. I tried to read every single one of your comments, but the post kinda exploded way more than I expected. Have a nice day. Update 2. Hi guys. Some of you probably waited for an update considering the last time I gave an update was 4 months ago. Okay, so I was in therapy and I feel so much better now. Doesn't mean that I forgot what happened. I honestly have to admit my mom really improved herself. I moved into a new apartment last month, and when I asked her to help, she immediately said yes, even though the day of me moving was a day where she had important appointments on her job, which she canceled to be there for me. She calls me almost every day to ask me how I am. Sometimes she even drives to my workplace to leave me a bit of lunch there. She also visits me at home just to see me. She says she wants to hear my voice. I still cannot fully trust her. I am in therapy, but I'm not sure if I ever will be able to. But I do recognize her efforts to make things right. She also talked to my grandparents again and made them apologize, but I couldn't care less about them. They were still dickheads even after the truth came out. Some of you might be interested what happened to my ex. The last thing I heard from her was that the guy she cheated on me with has now cheated on her too, and he just saw her as some kind of fling. But that's just hearsay from the friends of my best friend. I don't know if it's true or not, and I don't really care about her at all. But if it was true, it would be great karma though. Thank you so much for your support. I'll try to keep you updated if anything happens that is worth being told here. Story 2. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé his best friend can't be his best man? Original post. I know how it sounds. My fiancé, 29-year-old male, is an amazing guy. Sweet, funny, attractive, and hardworking. I, 29-year-old female, was impressed with him from the moment I met him, and we've been together 6 years. We are devoted to each other and working toward building our shared life. We each put a percentage of our earnings into 2 funds, one for our wedding, which is a year away, and another for a down payment on a home. We each pay the same percentage, but I pay a much larger amount because I went into a higher income field. We've budgeted it out pretty well. At this rate, we'll have enough to buy a home around the same time as our wedding, as planned. As to the wedding, we both wanted a small one, and my fiancé and I decided to have a destination wedding. We are paying for the entire wedding ourselves. My family's pretty poor, so I've also been saving a portion of my remaining paycheck to be able to pay for all of them to come to the wedding for free. I'm also paying for one of my bridesmaids who went into teaching and doesn't make much. My fiancé wouldn't really have the disposable cash to do that, but his family can afford to pay, somewhat wealthy, and is happy for the vacation. The problem arose last week. My fiancé's best friend Tom, 30-year-old male, who he asked to be his best man, got in an accident. It was likely entirely his fault as he was riding his motorcycle drunk. He suffered significant injuries, is going to have some major medical bills, and admitted to my fiancé he doesn't think he can afford to come. My fiancé wants to pay for him several $1,000s and lend him money to help cover his medical bills. But especially with everything going on, my fiancé does not have and is unlikely to be able to get the money to do either. I could afford to do both, but I don't want to. Truthfully, I can't stand this friend. He often rides or drives drunk, does not have a job, makes snarky comments about my fiancé that he insists are just jokes, but that I know actually affect my fiancé, and lives in his parents' basement while ignoring their well-being. I was willing to have him up there as best man because my fiancé considers him a brother and it's his choice. I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't about to throw a tantrum about it. But with everything going on, my fiancé has suggested taking a huge chunk of our savings for a house to help, and I said no. We got in a huge fight and he called me selfish and cruel, at which point I lost it. Told him his loser friend did this to himself, and that there was no way in hell I'd pay anything for his sorry ass. I ended by saying, if he can't afford to come, he can't be your best man. He hasn't spoken to me since last night and slept in the couch. While I still think I'm on solid footing, I wonder if I went too far. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Thank you to everyone that's responded. I will try to work through all of those this evening. I just wanted to make an edit based on a question or issue a lot of people have brought up, our finances. To clarify, we have talked about everything, especially financial expectations, to make sure we're on the same page. My fiancé's dad is a family law attorney, and as soon as it became clear we were in it for the long term, he sat us down, discussed with us the common pitfalls he saw that ended relationships, and gave us his advice to avoid them. His advice revolves largely around open communication and setting expectations and boundaries early, especially around money. So when we each graduated, we talked about the career paths we wanted. My fiancé decided he'd rather take a lower-paying job with normal hours, less stress, and more time outside of work. He wasn't worried about helping his parents out later in life because they are very well set up. He also wasn't worried that much about developing a big retirement account because he's very likely to inherit enough to survive on comfortably. I, on the other hand, likely will not have any inheritance and will want to provide for my parents' medical expenses and retirement as they get older. I also have a good amount of student loan debt. He does it because his parents could afford to pay for it, and while we both really enjoy traveling, he'd be willing to cut back on it significantly to have an easier job year-round. I wouldn't want to burden him with those costs, the ones that I brought into the relationship, as I feel that would naturally cause resentment, especially if it meant he had to work a job he enjoyed less to help share the cost with me. So I took the high-stress job that I don't enjoy and that requires me to work longer hours, but that pays significantly more. We agreed we each should be able to make that choice and decided a fair way to handle finances would be to 1. Create a joint account for common expenses: rent, bills, food, entertainment, work clothes. At his father's suggestion, we put in writing specifically what the fund could be used for. Agreed that anything outside that list would need to be approved by both of us, and that if the account is dissolved, we each get back what we put in, and we split any interest evenly. We each pay in 35% of our incomes. Because of the difference in our incomes, about 80% of the fund ultimately come from my income, which I think is reasonable because we're a team. We're building a life together, and the difficulties of my job invariably affect him too. 2. We create other joint savings accounts as needed for new projects, each the same way, with a written agreement as to what they can be used for. We have one for the house. Each pay 20% of our incomes, and one for the wedding. Each pay 10%. 3. We each get to keep the remaining 35% for our personal spending. My fiancé does not have that much left over. He had some taken out pre-taxes for a $401k, and he uses the rest for his car and a few hobbies. Right now, he voluntarily went part-time because his workplace was going to need to fire people if they didn't get volunteers due to the current situation, and we're in a good position otherwise. So he has pretty much no disposable income. I have a ton, but it goes mostly toward yearly vacations for us. My student loans, I'm paying twice what is owed each month to pay them down. My retirement account, an account set up for my parents' future expenses, and my car payments. Right now, it is also going toward helping with his car payments and hobbies. So yes, I could cut back on certain things and be able to pay for his friend, but it would affect those other things that I've worked hard for. I realize this system would not work for everyone, but it works for us, and I am definitely not financially abusing my fiancé. Now for the update. It's been a little over 2 months since my original post, and a lot has happened. In the days after that argument, my fiancé and I had a number of heart-to-hearts. We each apologized for how we behaved. He admitted that his friend had done some terrible things, and after some soul-searching, that he and his friend do not have a healthy relationship. He loves the guy, as his friend had been there for him through some tough times, but knows Tom needs to change. I thought hard about several of the comments made on the original post and made a tough choice. I told him that I hated the idea of bailing Tom out and would never agree to help with his medical bills, but provided Tom made some effort to change, I would pay for him to come to the wedding with my own separate funds. I love my fiancé more than anything, and I don't want anything to mar our wedding or the start of our marriage. Long story short, we sat down with Tom's parents, who were also fed up with him and had previously refused to help with any bills, to discuss the best way to help him. We all ultimately agreed that we would cover some of his costs, us the wedding and his parents the medical bills, but only if he accepted responsibility for what he's done and hit some concrete milestones toward changing, including successfully completing a program at an inpatient treatment facility for his addictions. All four of us sat down with him to make this offer. I won't go into details, but it didn't go well. My fiancé finally lost it and told Tom that he'd stuck by him through years of shitty choices, and that if Tom wouldn't get help, he didn't even want him as a friend, much less a best man. Tom told us all to screw off. We hadn't seen or heard from him since, and it has been incredibly hard on my fiancé. Then this past weekend, my fiancé received a text from Tom. It wasn't long, but thanked for everything he had done for Tom, apologized for everything, and let him know that he was on his way to a treatment facility. He hoped he could stand at my fiancé's side at our wedding, like my fiancé had always stood at his. My fiancé is trying to be cautious, but it clearly meant so much to him, and I know he believes against all odds that his friend will become a better man. I have my doubts, but you know what? I hope he does too. Thanks to everyone that gave me advice, let me feel heard, and helped me become a little better as well. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for giving my mom the silent treatment after I found out she was pregnant? I will try to be as direct as possible. I, 20-year-old female, always had a complicated relationship with my mother. Throughout my childhood, she always had problems with addiction. Basically, what I remember from my childhood with her is living with her until things got so bad that our family had to step in, moving in with them, my mom getting better, then moving back in with her only for her to get worse, and the cycle to start all over again. However, since I was 13, I lived with my uncles. They are incredible, and they have always been the parents I needed. But since then, my mother has not asked me to stay with her again. My uncles always explained that she had a disease and her leaving me with them was proof of her love for me. You can imagine that my relationship with her has always been complicated, but I've always tried to understand that this is something that is out of her control. In the last months, she's been on a good streak again. Stopping all that shit, she's moved in with a new boyfriend, and he seems to be someone that wants to help her out. We don't see each other much, but I try to call her at least every 15 days, and my parents always try to report to me about her improvements. However, last week, after a long time, she was the one that called me and asked me to go out. I tried not to get too excited, because I already know what she's like, but at the same time, I was happy. When we met, she explained how her boyfriend has helped her to cut 100% contact with anyone who influences her to go back to addiction, and how she wants to be a better person. She even started therapy and went to rehab for a while. I said I was very happy and asked what finally motivated her to make that decision. And then she told me that he helped her, but that the big motivator that gave her strength is that they decided to start a family and that she wanted to meet me in person to let me know that she is pregnant. She said she needed to be better, to be present, and that is what is helping her focus on recovery. It hurt me, that they were worth it, but I wasn't. I decided to leave before our lunch was even over and ignored all forms of contact from her thereafter. As people say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. However, yesterday her boyfriend called me. I answered because I didn't have his number saved, and he started yelling at me. He said I was an asshole, that for him, I would never have contact with his family because apparently no one knows where my mom is, and what hindered her improvement was my attitude. My grandparents are also angry with me and said that I am very irresponsible and that I didn't have emotional responsibility with someone very vulnerable. My parents said I didn't do anything wrong, but I have my doubts. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top of comments. What hindered her improvement was my attitude. No. What hindered her improvement was her choices. For years, she chose drugs over you. Now, she is choosing to have a baby. And you understandably feel that she is choosing the baby over you. You are 15. You do not have any emotional responsibility here. Your mother is an adult who has made a lot of poor choices. She needs to understand what her choice have done to you. You don't need to make her feel better about anything. It is not your responsibility to help her improve. That's all on her. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Not sure where I got 15 from. The rest still stands. I agree absolutely. 100%. The choices she made are entirely on her. You are not responsible for her well-being. She let you down repeatedly. She continues to do so. If she is relying on you for any kind of emotional support, she is not ready to have a baby. Regardless, I would say her bringing a baby into the world is a recipe for disaster. You have not the slightest bit of responsibility to her for anything. Please do not listen to anyone laying any kind of guilt trip on you. You do not deserve it. I am wishing the best for you. Your uncles are your real parents, as you know. Consider blocking anyone who blames you for your mother's wretched choices. Absolutely not the a-hole. That's all for today. If you are enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you.